Joining me now with reaction is South Dakota Senator John Thune. Senator, always a pleasure. Welcome back.
Good evening, Sean.
All right, so Webster actually says, don't pick the ones that say she should submit to me. That's in the Bible. You know, he said, don't pick that. Grayson runs this in the campaign ad. I got to tell you, that's right up there with one of the worst ads I've ever seen, one of the most dishonest. Your reaction?
I just saw when you put it up, that's the first time I've seen it, Sean, but it looks to me like a sign of desperation. This is a losing campaign, and I think you're going to see a lot more of this type of advertising over the next 4 weeks. These are people who are desperately trying to hang on to power, and that sort of selective thing and that sort of personal attack, there's no place for in politics.
It seems like, though, it's really coming from the president himself. I mean, he's been in full attack mode this entire week, going after the Republicans, blaming former President Bush. Republicans are obstructionists. Rolling Stone magazine. Spinning his agenda, or at least the perceived success in his mind on it. What do you think's happening? There's no Democrat in the country that's running on the bills that they passed. Why? Why do you think that is?
They're all trying to change the subject. The record that they have to talk about, what they've done in 18 months, in the last 18 months, is massively expand the government, pass a $2.5 trillion expansion of health care that the American people didn't want, a $1 trillion stimulus bill that we borrowed from our children and grandchildren and didn't do anything to create jobs, and continued to add to the federal debt, $2.6 trillion since the president took power. That's their record, Sean. That's why nobody wants to talk about it, and that's why they're trying to change the subject and create these distractions and these sorts of ads which are designed to scare voters across this country into voting for them. But I think the American people this year are going to see through this. They know what these guys are about. They know what their agenda has been, and I think you're going to see that reflected in the outcome on Election Day.
You know, it's always been a pet peeve of mine, the issue of earmarks, but when you really break it down, earmarks are a very small portion of the budget. You know, somebody in the focus group that we aired earlier tonight said our children ought to be allowed to vote in this election because we're bankrupted our kids. And in that sense, I think he made a pretty compelling case. My question to you is, you know, how do we balance a budget? Seems like Washington is addicted. This is like crack cocaine to them, spending. In all seriousness, how do you deal with entitlement reform when you have a significant portion of the country, 1 in 7 Americans in poverty right now, 44 million American homes is what that represents. That means families of 4 making under $22,000 a year. How do you cut back on the size and scope of government when dependency is so high?
Well, the American people, of course, most Americans at least, families, are having to see their budgets shrink in this economy. What I don't think they like seeing is the federal government's budget expand. And there are a lot of people in this country who are hurting. And the policies coming out of this administration and the congressional leadership here in Congress aren't doing anything to create jobs that will put people back to work. All they are doing is growing the federal government. And, you know, the overall government spending in the last 2 years has grown at 21% at a time when inflation in the overall economy was 3.5%. That's what the American people are objecting to.
So you have a proposal. What do you say? What are you proposing?
Well, I think, and this isn't a glamorous subject. In fact, most people's eyes kind of glaze over when I talk about it, Sean, but we've got to reform the budget process here in Washington. We didn't pass a budget this year. We have a $3.5 trillion enterprise called the federal government, and we didn't do the most fundamental responsibility that we have as stewards of the taxpayers' dollars, and that is even to pass a budget. It is dysfunctional. It is broken. We have 26 committees or subcommittees in Congress that spend money. We don't have any committees in Congress that save money for the American people. I've actually got a plan to reform the budget process. As I said, it's not a subject that a lot of people are all that interested in, but it would do more to fundamentally change the way that Washington works than anything else.
Maybe you can get Paris Hilton or Lindsay Lohan to, you know, go out and do an ad for your budget plan. Maybe that'll be helpful, and you can help sell it. All right. In all seriousness, there is talk that you might consider running for president.
Well, I think that right now, what I'm working on is the midterm elections. I think the best thing that I can do is try and change the direction of this country by helping elect more Republicans to the House and the Senate in the midterms. And then, obviously, there's going to be discussion about the presidential election. And that's obviously a decision that a lot of people around the country who are giving some thought and consideration to this are going to have to make at that time. But I think it's premature right now, and we'll have a time to talk about that after the midterms.
Would you not rule it out in your particular case?
Well, I don't think that I'm interested in public service. I'm someone who believes that you're in this not to make a career out of it, but to make a difference. And if I think I can make a difference, that's something I may consider. But at this point in time, it's the midterm elections. That's our focus, and that's what we need. I think all need to be working toward.
Senator, good to see you. Appreciate you being here once
Thanks, Sean.
again.
Good to see you.
And